Welcome Wargamers to another CineBG video. I am your channel host Chris, and today I am bringing you guys something I have been very excited about being able to do. As you probably noticed, this is a tournament review. And you may think, why Chris, why are you excited about a tournament review? Because in order to be able to do it in a tournament review, I have to go to a tournament. And this one marks my first tournament since I was probably around 12 years old. So that's a good around 13 years since I last was to a tournament. And I have been wanting to go to a tournament ever since I started playing again about 2 years ago. So this is very exciting for me. So I went to a tournament this past weekend on September 3rd and 4th. And today's Wednesday the 7th, and I went to a tournament that was hosted by two guys that's been on the channel a couple of times. Their name is Mark and Morton, and they live basically on the other side of the country almost. And they decided to host the second tournament of the year, second one in Denmark for a very long time. There aren't too many tournaments over here. So first of all, I was really excited about them doing one. They did one previously earlier this year called the Road to Fyn, and naturally this is the second one, so they decided to call it the Road to Fyn 2. So they hosted that. Not too many players in Denmark. As of right now, we've seen a tremendous increase in players in Denmark over, well, since I started playing at least. That's when I've been noticing it. When I started, we were about, should we say, about 4 players that I knew of, including myself, of course. And this time we were 10 people participating in the tournament. So not too big a tournament scene. I know the first tournament, I think there were about, was it 6 or 8 people participating? So it's a slight increase, which is always good. You got to look on the bright side. But yeah, so they hosted a tournament, and it was located on a small island called Fyn, hence the name Road to Fyn, as everybody is basically coming in from all over the country to participate in the tournament on Fyn. And it was hosted in a relatively small town, and it was about like 1 hour 45, maybe 2 hour drive from where I live in Copenhagen. So what I did was because it's partway through the country. Public transportation isn't that great. You could take public transportation, but probably end up taking about 5 hours. So I had arranged to borrow a car, and I went and picked that up on Friday, and then got everything ready. Pretty much, I hadn't really prepared my arm list too much in advance. I know we were going to this tournament that was about 600 points, but I didn't know what to bring. I've had not really much time to focus on the tournament and prepare because I've had work to do, and I had to finish all that off, and then basically a lot of things to do before I could actually focus on the tournament this past weekend. So I ended up just making my armor list on Friday and sending that off to to Mark and Morton, so they could review it and then basically let me come. So after having gotten the car and got everything prepped and had my army list looked through and approved, I got to bed around midnight, I think, and then I woke up next morning, Saturday morning, around 6:15, and started packing the car and getting everything ready. And then I went to pick up fellow player Matthias, who you perhaps also have seen on the channel. He was in basically like a hobby vlog day that Morton did, CineBG Morton, where he just got a few players together at his house, and they just had a few games, and he kind of did a vlog of the day. If you haven't seen that video, just go check it out. It's a great way to actually see what it's like playing in Denmark and seeing what the players are like and everything. So I went to pick up Matthias. Now Matthias is, I believe he's in 9th grade, so he brought his dad along just to kind of hang out there at the tournament. Great guys, both of them. I've only met Matthias a few times. Hadn't actually never played against him. So I was very much looking forward to at least playing him, because if I remember correctly, he ranked 2nd at the first tournament. That was this April, I think, this past April. But the three of us jumped in the car and we took off, and we arrived on Fyn around, I think it was like 9:45, and check-in started at 10 and ended around 10:30, so that was absolutely perfect. We just got there in a little bit good time, rather too early than too late, right? So arriving there, I had brought a bit of terrain that I promised Mark and Morten to bring that along so we could get a bit more terrain on one of the tables. So we set all that stuff up, and people arrived, and I met a bunch of these people for the first time. I only had met Mark and Morten, a player named Casper, Matthias, so that's 4, and I believe that was it. I don't think I had met any of the other players before. As I said, they come from all over Denmark, and the thing is with Denmark, when you travel across the country, there are several bridges. You'll probably have to cross a bridge at some point, and they're all tolled, so you have to pay to just cross them, and they're actually quite expensive. So just going on a trip across the country, you don't do relatively often, because they are, it is expensive. And well, according to the Danes at least, a 3-hour drive or a 2-hour drive or something is actually quite long. Most people don't do that. They can, they can situate with maybe half an hour or so. But no, like 2 or 3 hours, they don't really tend to like doing that too much. That's all. I think that's also one of the reasons why we don't have that many tournaments in Denmark at the moment. Hopefully that will change in the future as more players, join together and actually start playing together. But we'll see. Anyway, we arrived there at the tournament, and we were supposed to start the first game around 10:30. We were slightly delayed, but we got the first game set up, and right off the bat, I would just like to go through the army list that I brought, as well as the thoughts behind it, even though I just kind of whipped it out on that Friday. But I did have a bit of thought to it. So I have my army list basically right here. So it was, as I said, a 600 points tournament. In my first warband, and which also included my leader, I had Groblock, 2 Warp Marauders, 5 Goblins with Shield, and 5 with Spear. In second warband, I brought a Shaman. With him he had a Bat Swarm, 6 regular Goblins with Bow, and then 3 Prowlers, who had been given 2-handed weapons. The third warband was basically just a Cave Drake. It's an independent hero, so he couldn't bring anything along with it. And the fourth warband was Durbirds, along with a Dweller and 3 Warrior Goblins with Shield. And that totaled at 599 points. The reason why I, of course, brought a Groblock and the Shaman, well, you gotta have Shaman because it can cast Fury, and then with Groblock being in the Force, he has a special rule that allows the Shaman to just cast a regular Fury as if it was a channel version. So instead of 6s, I can Fury on a 5. As long as Groblock is alive. Of course, if he dies, then it goes back to being on 6 plus a save those fates or wounds, as it were. And then basically, I just wanted to play a lot of cool models where I like the rules. I think there's something fun in bringing models that you actually that you actually like and where you enjoy playing with them because of their rules, instead of just bringing a force where you are focused 100% on the competitive aspect. And I like the fact that you can, the combo between the Shaman and the Groblock, and also, of course, the Walk Marauders are absolutely fun. SBG Magazine, if I remember correctly, ranked it the best cavalry in the game, simply because they can move full, shoot, and they can also be in combat and still shoot. Granted, they only hit on 6s when moving, but it's just cheeky, it's fun, and I did get a couple of wounds in here and there on the from the Walk Marauders, so it all picked up. That was fun. The Batswarm, being only fight 1 is absolutely terrible, but it does have the special rule that halves the opponent's model's fight value in half and rounds down. So an Aragorn becomes a fight 3 like the Walk Marauder, so having that Walk Marauder, maybe one of my heroes, with the Batswarm in combat really helps. And I think that's it's a cool rule. It might be a little bit competitive more than anything else, but I think it's a lot of fun, and it definitely adds a bunch of tactics to your force that you otherwise wouldn't have. Now the Batswarm, of course, can fly, so 12 inches, so it really helps you control the board in a sense, because in one swift move you can actually jump it from one side of the board to another, and you can really control the combats in that way. So brought the Batswarm because it was fun. I had the Dweller because it's a cool model. It's like a tiny Balrog. Although it can't fly, it is a really high fight value. It has a fight of 7, and I really need something with a high fight, and it was really my only high fight value in my force, and it's not too strong. It's only strength 5, defense 5. It has 3 wounds, but I think you can actually do a lot with it because of its points, or for its points cost. And the Dweller was also again just a cool model to bring along, and yeah, basically. And then of course the Cave Drake. That is one of my favorite models in the entire range. So I really wanted to bring the Cave Drake. You pay a lot of points for it. It's a big point sink, and I know that a lot of people think it's too expensive for what it can do. But it has a bunch of special rules that I think are really fluffy, considering it is a Cave Drake. For example, if it is in combat and it gets trapped, which is one of the most used ways to actually take down a monster. Excuse me. If they wound the Cave Drake but don't kill it, everybody within 1 inch of it takes a strength 4 hit. Which I think is really cool, because as they also write in the source book, it's used to kind of slither through caves and caverns and small passageways. So it's you can kind of wiggle its way through out of tight spots basically. So I brought the Cave Drake along, and as you can tell, I didn't have a lot of models. I only had about 30 models in total for a 600 point list, and considering it's Moria, that really isn't a lot. So I had a bunch of monsters basically, or rather expensive units. The Walk Marauders. I had the Batswarm. I had the Prowlers. I had the Cave Drake, and I have the Dweller. Bunch of expensive models, but a lot of fun to use. So that was basically my list. Now I was going up against a player named Anders. Anders is a relatively young player. He kind of lives in the rural area of Jutland, where as far as I understand, there aren't too many players, so he hasn't had a lot of games in. But a fun game. We played to the death. He brought an Easterling War Priest on an armored horse and 5 Easterling Cataphracts. In the second warband, he had the Golden King, 6 Abraham Merchant Guard, 5 Archers of Kana, and then third warband, a Haradrim Chieftain, 5 Watchers of Kana, and 5 Watchers of Kana with bow, and then he brought Burda on his own. We played to the death, and we had a fun game. It was kind of like on a jungle board. Actually, a really cool board. It was basically, I think, all the plants for the jungle, all the trees and whatnot, were like aquarium plants, as it were, but like plastic ones. And it really looked cool when you had just a bunch of them together, and it was really this kind of tropical scene that I had never played on before, so I really liked that. And they had arranged the terrain, so it was, of course, even all the way throughout the board, but you kind of had to move your way in passageways. So you were, you almost, no matter where you would kind of get in a bottleneck. So numbers wasn't really going to help in either of us. And we had about the same amount of troops, so it really didn't matter much. But we kind of forced to go through passageways and just basically split up our forces, which kind of it worked. It worked for me because I kind of had Cave Drake could basically hold its own. I had the Dweller with a high fight value, and he could kind of take on a bit of stuff on his own. As long as I got my 6, I was safe. So I had him, and then I basically had my goblins, and everybody else trying to kind of stand out on the board. Of course, all surrounding the shaman, so I could cast my fury and then kind of get my saves when needed. It was a good game, and I ended up winning 1-0, which was fun. It was good. It was a good start to the entire tournament. My first tournament, and starting off with a win was kind of a boost in confidence. So that was great. I was really chuffed with that. Even if it was a small victory, just 1-0, it was good. So I enjoyed that. And then second game was against one of the TOs, Mark. We were playing High Ground. Mark, he brought Haldir, Defender of Helm's Deep, and then 8 Galadrim, where 2 of them had bow. And then, sorry, I have the armies in front of me. I'm just trying to make sure I say it all right. But yeah, then he had some more Galadrim with Elven Blade and some of the spear, and he also brought a banner. Then he had Leggy with armor and Aragorn with armor. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so we were playing on a Moria Goblin Town-esque board, which were actually situated on a I think it was a mat from Deep Cut Studios, where it was kind of like an ocean board, an ocean mat. So I think the way the TOs decided to rule it was at the start of the game, you had the players in between them had to decide whether they wanted to play it as actually being water or just some kind of sort of like dark grass or something. Because you could actually play it as either, and it could go for grass as well. So I think that actually worked pretty well. The only thing is, of course, perhaps you should stick with it and only have it be as one or the other. I only played on it. I played on it twice, and both times we decided it was just grass, just to make things easier. So it wasn't shallow water where there'll be penalties and whatnot. So it was just fair for everybody. But yeah, so we played a game of High Ground where you kind of have a centered hill in the center. And then it was I was really dreading that game because I knew that he had a lot of archers with him, and of course elves being strength 3 with bows, hitting on a 3+, having Lecky in there with either his 3 shots or the auto hit. He was looking at a lot of shots and basically just needing 5s to wound. Even if you decided to go for my Dweller, that would still be 5s. Only a few of my models would be required 6s, like the Case Drake, Groblock Durbert, you know. So basically he was wounding on 5s, and he had a lot of bows and a lot of shots. And I was really dreading basically that he was going to be able to just kill off half my army before I even got into close combat with him. So what I did was, with deployment, I was relatively lucky. Like I had half my force, starting relatively close to the hill, and the other half starting kind of in the back. So what I did was, and he had basically the same thing. I think actually, yeah, most of them actually had to deploy in the back. So my tactic was I had to kind of run up and try to hide behind the hill, because being goblins, they're relatively short, so that I could hide behind the hill. Just kind of try to get my force together as it was, so I could, attack with it all at once instead of having to split up my forces, and then you could kind of just take my goblins out one by one, and in a relatively, quick manner. So I hid behind the hill until I had almost my entire force together. And then I flanked him with my Cave Drake, and then I just climbed up on top of the hill and got into close combat as quickly as possible, which really worked out, because as soon as I got into combat, as soon as I got my priorities, and if I didn't made my heroic moves, as soon as I got into close combat, he would not be able to shoot at me because, he's good, so he can't shoot into combat. So that worked really well, but to top it all off, I don't think he actually made a single wound with his archers, not one. So I was really lucky in that way. And ultimately, after doing several hurls with my Cave Drake and my Dweller, having the Bat Swarm fighting Aragorn along with the Dweller, so I still had that high fight value, I ended up doing quite well, I think, considering how, not scared, but yeah, I was not really looking forward to that game. I did end up winning 27-9, because I ended up having so many models, more models than he did on the hill. And I think I also got, I don't remember the other ones actually, how I got the other VPs, but I ended up winning 27-9, so that was good. So 2 for 2, that's a good start to the day. And then went on to the third game, where I played the other TO, Morton. Now it was basically like 3 lists I was not looking forward to, or hoping not to meet. Marks being one of them, Morton being the second one. We played a game of domination where I would go up against his all-mounted Rohan with Gandalf. So he had Gandalf the Grey on horse, he had Eowyn with horse armor and shield, 5 Sons of Earl and 1 Westfall Red Shield, and then in his third warband he had Erkenbrand on a horse and 12 Westfall Red Shields. And domination was perfect for him because he was all mounted. He didn't have a single model that was on foot, so he could dominate the board, all the objective markers, and he did. I got completely annihilated. It was a fun game because it was quite difficult for me, so I really learned a lot with using my army in that game. But no, I got absolutely destroyed in the first round. There was nothing I could do, but he killed off my Dweller in the very first round, and then it was just that meant that was the model that I had the highest fight value with, and it's just a bunch of restful red shields. I think they charged it, trapped it, he got, I think I got 5 highs, and naturally he rolled a 6. So, and he, no, yeah, and I think Gandalf had even, was it immobilized him beforehand? So there's absolutely nothing I could do, so the Dweller went like that. And so that really sucked. I only did one good move, I think, where I called a heroic combat with my Drake. Killed off he just put one model on it, I think. Was it 2? Called a heroic combat with my Cave Drake single point of might. Killed off the models and then swooped around to take on Erkenbrand. And I did kill off Erkenbrand in that round. So that was a swift move, so I killed off, it was like 2 Westfall Red Shields, or was one of them a Sunbird, I don't remember. And then swoop around and taking out Erkenbrand. That was the only good thing I really did in that entire game. Else I just got completely destroyed. So I lost, as you probably can sense, I lost 13-3. Still a good game, I enjoyed it, but naturally it would have been nice to win. And then we went on to the final game of the first day, where I played a guy named Mass, who I hadn't played against before. We played a game on Reconnoiter, and that was really a close game, an extremely close game. All the way throughout, it was basically 0-0. All the way throughout, none of us was able to get any models onto the other side. I moved up really quickly. So I got relatively close. I got like past half with all my models, but then I just clashed with him, and because he brought the Witch King with 2 Spectres and 10 Orc Warriors in the first warband, he then brought Burder, and then in the third warband he had an Orc Captain with 10 Orc Warriors, and then he also brought Azog Sunders. He had an Azog with 1,200 Orcs. And on foot, that is. And he had more models than I did, so he could kind of spread out and just, make sure that I couldn't get through, which he did really, really well, which was really annoying. But it was a really close game, and we didn't actually manage to kill a whole bunch of models on either side. It was almost like none of us was able to wound that much, considering how many combats we actually had throughout the entire game. I was able to, with a hurl, I was able to get the Witch King off his horse, which was nice. But that was basically it. And the game, it really came down to the very last round, where he managed to, did he get a wound on my leader, I think it was? And, no, I'm sorry, no, he broke me in the last round, and it came down to, was it like the third last combat of that round? And then I ended up breaking him as well, so he got a draw, 1-1, which was really lucky for me. So we broke each other, and that was it. So it's a 1-1. It was a very, very close game. And it was really, really stressful in the last round to try to make sure I actually broke him and try to get all the killed models that I needed. I think in the last round I needed to kill, I think I needed to kill like, was it 3 or 4 models in one round, which, should be doable, considering they're just Orc Warriors. Some had shields, some spears, 2-handed weapons, whatnot. But we only just broke each other in the last round. And that was really intense. So a really, really good game and a good way to finish off the first day. I'm sorry I don't have the rankings after the first day, but I think I was in the top half. And considering, again, this was my first tournament, that was kind of my hopes going into the tournament, that I could finish in the top 50%. So I was quite chuffed with that. I didn't really know what to expect from the second day, but I figured I'd just have a chill evening, not worry too much about it, and just relax, enjoy spending time with the other players. That's what it's all about, so I've heard. And so what we did was, after the last game, we hung out, chatted. We had dinner at the venue, which was basically it was a school, and so we had professional kitchen, a fully equipped kitchen with everything we needed and everything. So we had dinner, and I brought a book just for fun, a Danish book, but you probably won't understand what it says, but it's basically, do you know everything about Lord of the Rings? So it's basically a quiz book with 1,200 questions on the Lord of the Rings books. And I know from watching several tournament reviews and whatnot on the GBHL channel that quizzes are quite popular. So I thought, why not bring a quiz book? So we sat and had a few questions through dinner, and we actually got quite a few right. So that was fun. We didn't do teams or anything. We just kind of asked out, in the room, if anybody knew the answer to the question. We went about 20 questions or something. It was fun. And we chilled some more, relaxed, had a few beers at the school, and it was good fun. We had Concept of Champions. I don't remember what everybody brought, but I had. I didn't bring a whole lot of models, so I just used Durbets. You could take a hero you had a model for, and then just you had 100 points. So you could buy the model for his points cost. You could buy him additional upgrades, like war gear if you could, if it was in his profile, and then you could buy additional might, will, and fate if needed. So I had Durbets with, was it 7 points of might and 6 fate, I think. And ultimately I went into the final, so we had, we had 3 groups, because one of the players had to leave early. Well, not early, but he went home. So we had 3 groups of 3 players each, and I won my group, and then into the final, where I got destroyed extremely quickly because I spent almost all my might and fate in the group stage. But that was fun to try out. I've never done that before. That was a lot of fun, actually. After that, I had a game with Anders, who I played in the first game of the day, which we also filmed. So look out for that battle report, probably next week. We didn't finish that battle report until like 2 a.m. and we had to get up around 9 for breakfast the following morning, so straight to bed. And up the next morning, day 2, had breakfast, got ready, all that stuff that we needed, and then it was on to the games. And in the first game of day 2, I played Matthias, who rode in the car with me on the raid to 3. And that was the 3rd list I was really dreading on going into the tournament. He had an Elven list. He brought Galadriel as his leader, with 10 Galadriel warriors with bow. The second warband was Rumil with 5 Galadriel warriors with Elven blade, and 6 Galadriel warriors with spear and shield. And his third warband was Laki with armor, 5 Galadriel warriors with Elven blade, and 5 Galadriel warriors with spear and shield. Elves, man, I really don't like when playing warrior because of their bows. And we ended up playing whole ground. So we had this a ruin in the center, and I was, playing whole ground. When deploying, you have to roll to see which border you start from, and he was relatively lucky with his deployment. There was only one warband that he couldn't deploy in his favor, basically. Well, I decided where to deploy it, where it was the other way around for me. So it was a little bit difficult for starters, or to start with even. But I ended up having my cave drake on one board edge, and then the rest of my force on another. So I spent the first, 2 rounds just getting my cave drake down to the rest of my force, and then swarming the warband that I had deployed relatively close to mine. Or was it the other way around? But taking out that warband as quickly as possible, and then meanwhile Matthias was on the opposite board edge and just moving in and trying to shoot down my force whenever possible. And again, it was a really close game. Elves, I really dreaded the shooting, and he did take out quite a few of my models. He ended up taking out my shaman about halfway through the game, maybe just past halfway. So no more fury saves. No more fury saves for me. And I didn't end up taking out that warband. I was trying to swarm until like the third last round or something. So it was really, it didn't look good. But ultimately it was all about, holding the ground and trying to take that ruin. So I just tried to get up to the ruin and basically just hide most of my force behind the ruin and try to get as many in as possible to get all the VPs I could. And then I just had my Warp Marauders, my Cave Drake, and my Dweller, just trying to swoop up and kind of obtain his, distract him from everybody that was hiding behind the ruin. And going into the last round, the penultimate round, he took out the Dweller. He had done 2 wounds previously, but then moving up, he took out the Dweller with a shot, so the Dweller was gone. And then I had my Warp Marauders and the Cave Drake left. One of the Warp Marauders died as well from a bow shot, and that really, made it slightly difficult, because Galadriel was there. She could constantly mobilize my Cave Drake or compel it, or command it even. So it was really difficult. And ultimately he ended up swarming my Warp Marauder, and I had my Cave Drake up fighting 4 models, I think. And this was the last round, and he needed to kill 1 model, and then I was broken, and he was unbroken himself, so he would have taken it. In that sense, not counting, so to speak, the models that were close to the ruin, just the other VPs. So that would have granted him 3, and I needed to kill 1 or 2 as well, so it was like dead close to breaking. And he has swarmed my Warp Marauder with like 6 models, and it was completely trapped, and he didn't do a wound on it. It had like 2 wounds left, I think, 1 or 2 wounds left, and he didn't kill it, which was really lucky for me. I really thought he was gonna die there, but he didn't. And so we went on to the last combat of the round, with my Cave Drake up against his 4 models, and I ended up taking that combat. Galadriel had tried to immobilize it, but with my resistance to magic, I denied him the immobilize, and I won the combat. And then I opted to hurl, and in that hurl, I think I killed 4 or 5 models, and they were all close to the ruin in the center. I tried to get a cheeky wound on Galadriel as well, but unfortunately not. But ultimately, because I was able to take out those models in that hurl, I broke him, and then I had quite a few more models close to the ruin than he did, so I ended up winning the game 17-7, but it all basically came down to the last round, and the movement and combats. So it was, and shooting of course, so that was a lot of fun. Really great game, a really close game, and Matthias was a really tactical player. He definitely knew his tactics, which was amazing, considering he's only played for about a year. So that was was a really good game, probably one of my favorite games from the entire tournament. So that was another win for me. So I had one loss and one tie, and then that must have been 4 wins. 3 wins, 4 wins. Go from the starting the first game of the second day, and then going into the next game, I played dwarves, but it was modified seize the prize. So the only way to win was basically get the prize and get it to the opposite opponent's side, or starting board edge. So that was it. You just get the prize, take it to the opponent's starting board edge, and that's when the game ends as soon as the prize is off the board. And I played dwarves. Ulrich had brought Dane with 4 warriors with shield and 4 cards of guard, a captain with a 2-handed axe, 6 warriors with shield, 6 warriors with 2-handed axe and banner, and then a captain with shield, 6 warriors with shield, 6 with 2-handed axe and another banner. That was, honestly, it was not that difficult a game. Naturally, I had the movement on my side. I could, in the first round, I was in base contact with the prize. I had a bat swarm and a walk marauder in base contact with it, and on a 4+, you were able to dig up the prize, and then you just have to take it off the board. And I had the bat swarm up there first, unable to pick it up. So I had the walk marauder. He picked it up, and then he held it for the rest of the game, and ultimately just carried off the board. That wasn't. I hope Ulrich at least had fun. If you're watching, I hope you had fun playing. Despite definitely that I could basically just control the board with my movement and heroic marches and whatnot. Because that really helped, getting the prize off the table. But while playing, we thought you could get other VPs as well. I think we had misunderstood some of the VP rules, as it were, and so we kept playing even after the game had ended officially, which was, that made the game a lot more fun because we thought you could still get points for killing the enemy leader and whatnot. But obviously we were both focusing on getting the prize. We knew that was going to grant you 5 VPs, so that was the best way to actually do it, get VPs in there. But yeah, it was, it is what it is. We had a little bit of misunderstanding there, but it was great fun. It's great fun. And it was, I really tried to kill, or at least get a wound on Dane, but with his defense 9, that's really difficult. I had him trapped 2 or 3 times, with high fight value and everything. I won combats, but with his defense 9, I was simply unable to do any wounds. I think I did 1, and then he denied me the wound with a fate. So, there was absolutely nothing to be done. But I ended up winning that up, with my movement. That was really, you could kind of guess that, I guess. So I ended up winning that and granting me another 5 VPs. So I won 5-0, as it were. That was good. And then I had the last game of the entire tournament, and that I really knew that was going to come down to, it was kind of a tiebreak. I knew I was at the top, but I was I second or third at the time, and so I knew I needed a win, because Morton, who I was at the top, the TO, the only way I could actually beat him was if I got a win. If I got a win and he didn't, that could put me up, over him. else he would probably take it. There was also another player, Christian. Unfortunately, I never got to play him. But he was up there as well. He was ranked 3rd, I think. So, it was really close at the top. It could swing both ways, all depending on how we did and how Morten did. So it was really close already in the rankings. And then going into the last game, I played Lord of Battle, against the player named Jens. And Jens had brought a combined, he had like a combination of 3 forces, 3 alliance force. He had Thryden, Wolfsbane, he had an Isengard Troll with Spear, and 6 Dunlendings with shields. And then he had an Uruk-hai Captain with heavy armor, 12 Uruk Scouts, 4 with shield, 4 with bow, and 4 reckless. And then he had the Knight of Umbar on foot with 10 Corsairs, where 4 had shields, 4 had spears, and 2 had bows. And man, I dreaded that Knight of Umbar. I really didn't know how to handle him, and I really dreaded the Troll. The Knight of Umbar can, of course, take the opponent's stat lines, any part of the stat line. He doesn't even have to take the entire thing. He can just take whatever stat he wants, and I really didn't know how to deal with that. Originally, going in, it was probably just, I could just feed him a goblin at a time, but he quickly got his Knight of Umbar on my cave straight. He was actually able to do 4 wounds on it, ultimately, at the end. Once the game was over, he did 4 wounds on the cave drake, despite it being defense 7. So that was, not so great. And he killed a bunch of models, and again, it was one of those games where it came down to the very, very last round. I did all I could to get as many VPs as possible, because, when you're that late in the entire tournament, you're so close to actually winning the entire thing. So you really, really want to do well, and you actually go for the win in the last game. But man, that army, I didn't know what to do. The Corsairs dropped relatively easy. So did the Uruk Scouts. I had my Dweller wreak some havoc against some Uruk Scouts, and I took out a couple of few there. But my goblins dropped like flies. They were like defense 4 and 5, depending on whether or not they have a shield. So that was dreadful. And ultimately, he ended up killing more of my models than I killed his, or even wounds, as it were. So he ended up killing more than I did. However, I broke him in the very, very, very last round. And we counted the VPs twice, just to make sure that we had counted everything correctly. Because it was so close that I won by 1 VP. 1. So I won 24-23. Which was almost too good to be true, winning by one wound, as it were, especially considering he killed more models than I did. So we counted that twice just to make sure that we actually got that right, but we did. So 24-23, and that was the 7 games that the entire tournament included. Just for fun, I really wanted to play 2 other guys as well. The 2 players I never was able to go up against. Christian, who was close there at the top. He had a Dark Marshal on a horse. He had Cartridge the Firecaller, and then he had a Moran Orc Captain, 2 Castellans of Dogoldur, 4 Morgul Knights, 12 Morannon Orcs with Shield, and 12 Morannon Orcs with Shield and Spear. That would have hurt as well. I wanted to play against it because I think it would have been a lot of fun. I wouldn't know what to do, but just like when I played against Morten, it would have been quite educational, I think. I would really have learned a lot from playing that game. But unfortunately, I was not able to go up against him. He was, didn't happen. But he lives relatively close to where I live. So I think we will probably meet up in the future, so I probably can play against that list. And then I never got to play against Casper. Casper, he brought a very, very fluffy list. He brought something he called Defenders of the Brandywine. So he had Aragorn, Isildur, and he had Gildor and Glorian. He had Elladan and Elrohir. He had Halbarad and 3 Rangers of the North. And of course, some of them have been equipped with extra stuff. But that was a very, an all-hero list. The only all-hero list that was in the present in the entire tournament. A very, very cool list, which I would also have liked to play against, because you don't see too many all-hero lists, generally speaking, I think. We don't have them that much on the channel either. So, that would have been a lot of fun. But, unfortunately, that didn't happen either. So after the 7 games, it was on to the award show, as it were, and there were awards for Wooden Spoon, of course, for the last round, and there was Most Fluffy, there was Best Painted, and then Tournament Winner. That was the 4 awards there were, and I promised the person that won, won the Wooden Spoon, that I wouldn't mention it. So I won. However, the other awards went to Casper for the Most Fluffy. So that was the Defenders of the Brandywine that I just mentioned. And then Best Painted went to Ulrich, who I played against. The Dwarven list. I was trying to put up a photo of it now, so you can see it. That was absolutely stunningly painted. It was really great, and I really thought, okay, well, looking at that, I have a long way to do, or a long way to go, before I can do anything remotely similar to that. But it was, it was completely, fully deserved. Gorgeous, gorgeous models. And the paint jobs only made him look so much more stunning. So then it was on to the tournament winner, and as I mentioned earlier, it was very, very close at the top, and it basically came down to the last game. As I mentioned, Morten had he had 5 wins and a loss. And he was number 1 going into the last game of the round, of the tournament, sorry. And then the other Christian and we were quite close up there as well. So I think I would just mention the top 5 of the entire tournament. In 5th came Matthias with his Elven list. Great player, and ultimately also the person who won the most VPs throughout the entire tournament. He got 111 VPs, and he got the last game, I think he got like 64. So 64 VPs in one game, which is absolutely insane. Going into the last game, I think I had like 54, and he got 64 in one game. That's, honorable mention. That was really amazing. And personally, I actually think perhaps, and if I were to do a tournament, which I probably will do one day, I think I would have a prize as well for either the person who scores the most VPs or the person who has the best positive difference, so to speak. So, if you have a difference of plus 40, and that's the most, then that's what that person should get an award as well. Because I think ultimately every game comes also down to VPs. You want to score as many VPs as possible, so I think there should be an award for that as well. But anyway, so Matthias was 5th. Then we have Mats, he was 4th, and then it came to the top 3, and ultimately Morten lost his game, so he went from a 1st place to a 3rd in the last game, and that meant it was the 2 Christians, myself and the other Christian, in the top 2 spots, and we ended up both winning that last game. So it all came down to to what's called the book hauls, because we were doing Swiss ranked tournament. So the median book hauls, it is the way you break ties in Swiss ranked tournaments, and it is the sum of player. Sorry, I'll read it out loud here. The value the sum of a player's opponent's scores with the best and worst scores discarded. So it was just came down to a tiebreaker, and Christian had a 29 score and I had 34, which meant that I ended up winning the entire tournament. So that was completely unexpected. When I went into the tournament, as I mentioned, I hoped for best or top 50%, and winning the actual entire thing, I never would have imagined. I would never have hoped for. So, but I won the entire thing. Not lying, you can see it here. Tournament winner. And I was completely ecstatic. I tried to not show it too much because I don't want to, overdo it. It might, especially considering it was so close at the top. It could have just as well gone to Christian as it had gone to me, or if Morten hadn't lost that game, he would have automatically taken it. So it was really, really dead close at the end there. So I'm not entirely sure. I feel like I deserve it, not too much, because I also think it is a dice game. A lot of it comes down to luck with dice rolls and everything. I had a lot of great dice rolls throughout the entire thing. So I'm not too sure if that, if I feel like I actually deserved it. I felt like I was very lucky throughout the entire tournament. But it is what it is. It is a dice game, and it could have just as well as gone the other way around, I suppose. So I won the entire thing, and the prizes I got was I got Thorin and Bilbo, which is a great set. I don't have them already, so I actually got some pretty well cast minis. So I'm really, really chuffed with those. Then I got 6 Knights of Dol Amroth. I don't do a fiefdoms list, so I'm not sure if I'll be using them too much. But regardless, look at those models; they're absolutely stunning. So it's a great set, and just the design and everything is absolutely amazing. But Rob, the other Semi BG host, or one of the other two, he's doing a fiefdoms list, and his birthday's coming up. So, as I might actually give those to him as a birthday present. So I won those, and then lastly, I won a Citadel case. One of the newer ones, the small one, which is absolutely amazing because it can hold an entire army, and it's so much more compact and is so much smaller than the previous cases that I have 3 of, I think. So I'm really, really chuffed with this one because it's perfect for when going to tournaments like, say, in Manchester this October. So I'm really, really happy. Completely chuffed with this one. So I got that one as well, and that was basically it. The tournament was over, so we started packing up, and then it was again, Matthias, his dad, and I, we jumped in the car and headed on back to Copenhagen. And it was really rainy weather as well, so it'd been perfect for miniature playing indoors all day. So it was great fun. Morten and Mark were wonderful TOs. Everything was so relaxed. It was down to earth, and completely casual. And all the guys that were there, completely great guys. I had so much fun meeting all of them. All of them were great games. There was not a single game where you felt like the opponent was being not too competitive. You know what I mean? Like it was none of the games. Everybody was just there to have fun, which I think it's all about. It's all about just having fun and enjoying playing the game you love. And everybody came into the tournament with that in mind. So it was a great experience, and I couldn't have wished for a better first tournament than the one I just went to. So Morten and Mark, thank you so much for hosting. You were great, wonderful TOs, and I extremely hope, that you will do a third Road to Foon or something equivalent. Hopefully not in the far future. Maybe we can wing in one later this year. That would be amazing. But yeah, and this tournament has really made me want to host a tournament myself as well. So once again, thank you to Morten and Mark and all the guys that attended. You were all great sports. But I think that's it for the tournament review. Today, as I mentioned at the beginning, is Wednesday, September 7th. I'll try to have this up either by tonight or perhaps it will be out tomorrow on Thursday. But I think that's all of it. I hope it was at least something somewhat entertaining to listen what it's like to be at a Danish tournament. If you have any suggestions or comments or anything, please leave them in the comment section below. As I mentioned, this is my first tournament review ever, so I'm not really sure about the format, if there's anything that you would have liked to heard about or anything. So didn't exactly know what it was all going to be about when I went into this video. I kind of just winged it, so let me know how I did in the comment section below. Constructive criticism is always appreciated. And then, as always, like, share and subscribe, support your hobby, and happy strategy ballot gaming.